smarter way. We have to connect real world while learning, and that is the smarter way to learn. Because whatever happens in real world, you remember that very well, which gets printed like a system in your brain, and then you can visualize and run your intelligence because the system is sitting very clearly in your brain. Thank you. Let's see now what we saw the last time. So let's recap what we did last time. The video we are talking about was, so here we are back now again, and we are going to analyze those objects which so we had a manual wiring where we did wiring of the bulb to get power. We had ground floor switch, we had top floor switch, we had power. We discussed that there is a dependency of power for the bulb to become on, and that switches are the medium, so it is dependent on switches also. We have a ground floor switch, we have top floor switch. The dependencies we are wiring, right? That's what we are watching. Let's watch this further to summarize quickly. We just talked about here in our section: bulb, ground floor switch, power, top floor switch. What are we going to have? We downloaded other than web. And we went here. And then let's have this Spring. And after that, now we made a new class. The class name is bulb. Okay. Now what's the okay? Let's name this class as you made a power supply class, you made a bulb class, you made ground floor switch class, you made top floor switch class. Don't worry about that. I will put the code in the below link, what I'm recording, but let's go further now. File, let's name this as beans.xml. And let's copy all this which is there inside this. Okay. So guys, this represents our wiring of the beam, where we bought the basic elements: bulb, the ground floor switch, a top floor switch, and the power. So what we did now, just to recap, we recognize the objects. We have just recognized the objects, right? We recognize their dependencies, and then we have given a beans.xml. And let's copy all this which is there inside this. Okay. So what we did now, just to recap, we recognize the objects. We have just recognized the objects, right? We recognize their dependencies, and then we have given a bean definition for them. So is the bean file okay? The beans.file X file, is it okay, or it's having some problem? to me it looks like there is element bean is not closed. Okay. So let's close this bean. Let's put this way. See, it went off. So that means even this notation is fine. So we close this. Let's observe this file. Okay, here we come. Okay, here the file is ready now. Beans file is almost ready. That means our wiring is ready. If you remember the first video, what we saw, we bought a bulb, bought a ground floor switch, we bought a top floor switch, and we are trying to connect to the power supply through phase and neutral to ground floor switch, top floor switch. So when we on the ground floor switch, the bulb should become on. Off the top floor switch, the bulb should become off. All right, so far so good. But is our wiring complete here? Merely bringing the components on the table and putting wires to each terminal of the components is not enough, correct? So we need to now establish the relationship between these components using wiring. So our manual wiring is still not complete, correct? We have defined the beans.xml and we have defined the objects, bulb, ground floor switch, top floor switch, power supply. Okay, now in my next episode, we are going to define this objects in detail. Okay, that means what properties it will have, what methods it will have, how do we make this as bean. That means we'll put the getters and setters for this. So far so good. Here we come now. We do see a change here. What is the change? For now, I have taken the bulb class and I am putting the ground floor switch as one of its property. And I'm going to refer the bean ground floor switch. So what did I do here? This is called as, dependency by setter. That is, the ground floor switch is a setter. It sets the bulb on. Makes sense? What did I say? I'm just repeating once again. After doing a manual wiring, what I'm doing is I am connecting the ground floor switch to the bulb. The previous diagram, whatever I showed you, it was merely putting the terminals to the wire. Now when wiring, I need to wire the ground floor switch to the bulb as well as the power supply. Now here in this diagram, by doing this exercise, I am putting the one terminal of ground floor switch to bulb. And you do have a power supply also, right? And logically, I need to put another terminal to power supply, but for now, we'll stop here and go further our analysis of what all we have done. So we have these classes. We have bulb.java. The bulb.java will basically have what as its members. The member of a bulb will be a ground floor switch and status. That is, we have another object as it's one of the members. I'm telling in a way or in general way, and the bulb status as one of its attributes. So far makes it sense. We saw the bulb object. We have the property, the bulb status. We have the ground floor switch as its member. And what we can do is from this point, we can make the ground floor switch live and set its status. So far so good. Now let's go to drawing again. Uh, let's go to a whiteboard. In this whiteboard, what we are going to do is that we have made a bulb object. And what we are doing is through this bulb object, we are going to talk to the ground floor switch object. This is ground floor switch. And this is the bulb object. We could refer the diagram, but I'm making it more simple this way. Ground floor switch, this is the bulb, and bulb is going to talk to ground floor switch, right? So that means that we are going to have a bulb object, ground floor switch. I can make it private, but for now I'm just making it public for understanding purpose. But yes, you should make it private. And then you have, see, this is a thing which we should not be more specific, that when you put dependency as a property, I'm going to revisit what I'm going to tell. Go to beans.xml. Let me make the beans.xml a little smaller so that I can refer what I'm talking about, or I can take this code as it is into my bulb object, right? So for now, just for sake of simplicity, I'll paste it here and just comment this code. All right. Now here, do you see this? That I have put ref local equals ground floor switch. Local means since the class is in the same package, I can refer that as a local. And what do I say here is that property name is ground floor switch and ref is local. What happens when you give such a thing? That means it will search by this name, ground floor switch. It needs a setter method by this name, ground floor switch. Do I have that? Yes, this is the one. So it refers this B name, ground floor switch, and then it refers set ground floor switch. This is called as setter injection. That is injecting the dependency using setter method. That means I call a set method, get my ground floor switch, right? And then what happens? To make the bulb on, I set the ground floor switch on. This is what I wanted to tell. It should appear quite logical to you. What is setter injection? So in the setter injection, we are expressing a dependency by referring the class which has one of its member as another object, which is again a property here. And we reference that bin using ref local because it is the package of the same class. After you do this in the bean wiring, you have to make sure that you have a set ground floor switch. So far so good. I'm going to take this out from here. Now what we're going to do is that we have we have this bulb class ready. We're going to share the screen. Oh, I have to explain this to you once again. I'm sorry about it. There was no screen sharing. So let's revisit the bulb class.